704 once again for episode 57 of the 815 Exchange, and it's packed. It's packed. It's a packed episode today. It's not going to be, well, I mean, it might. You know, I said that last week, and it still ended up being a nice little short. We've kind of had this run of about half an hour episodes, which has been nice. But I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on it because football is back. College football is back. And, you know, we got a lot to talk about. And what was a wild week one with a bunch of crazy stuff. And we're actually going to kick off with that. But before I get to that, of course, do have to hit some benchmarks here in this introduction. Of course, namely, we hit 200 subscribers. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for all the support. Much appreciated. What else? What other cleaning can I do? Oh, I tried to upload a reaction to the Way Too Sexy Drake, and I'll talk about Certified Lover Boy, of course, because that also came out. We got a big entertainment section as well, Shang-Chi. Tried to do a reaction video for that, but it got blocked, so that is what it is. What else? Yeah, that's about it. As always, timestamps are in the description. So if you want to skip to the MLB or to combat sports or to the entertainment section, feel free to. Or you want to skip the rest of this intro, feel free to. Timestamps, descriptions, got everything you need. It's also got all my social media. So if you want to follow me on social media, Twitter, TikTok, IG, Snap, whatever it is, all of that can be found there. And of course, as always, like I said, we just hit the 200 subscriber mark, which thank you. But as always, like, share, subscribe if you are enjoying the content. It helps the channel grow, as we've seen the past month and a half, which has been kind of exponential to growth. But without further ado, let's get started, man. College football. Charlotte. Yeah, we're kicking off with the home team. Cause I gotta talk my, we, you know, had to deal with people, you know, who didn't know. And some of it, you know, on this campus, you know, may have been new. You know, for the sophomores, even, it's their first time on campus, right? So, you know, I had to deal with a lot of people that just didn't seem to just not know. You know, they're like, we're playing Duke. We're gonna get destroyed. Yada. Dealt with all that. I didn't say anything, you know. I knew what our team was capable of, you know. I felt like we could beat Duke. But, you know, had to deal with all that throughout the week. And to be fair, we did lose 53-19, I think, last year. But we had all the COVID situation, and I'm not even going to get into all that. But nonetheless, we had this matchup week one, first game of the season, green out on a Friday. And it was one of the best games I've ever seen in my life. It was one of the best games I have ever seen in my life. The atmosphere at Jerry Richardson Stadium was insane. For those that watched it at home, as you know, it was absolutely probably game of the year so far in college football, even though, of course, it's only been 1 week. But one of the games of the year, absolutely insane game. We pulled off the upset, get our first Power 5 win in team history in year 9, 31-28 over Duke. Chris Reynolds, 19 for 30, 324, 3 touchdowns. Reynolds is he's good. He's a winner, man. He's a winner. This got to be the clutchest team. We got to have one of the clutchest teams I've seen. When it's time to make a play, we just make a play. Reynolds, like I said, 19 for 30, 324, 3 touchdowns. He had a great game. Also picked up a little bit on the ground. Victor Tucker got to be going to the league, man. 8 receptions, 133 yards. I do have to show some respect to All ACC. If he wasn't All ACC, I voted him All ACC. Mateo DeBrant is the truth at running back for Duke. He had 255 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dude was a menace. He was a menace. And he was absolute terror. He scored within, you know, he scored the go-ahead for Duke before we came back and won the game. He scored the go-ahead. We couldn't stop him. We couldn't stop him all again. We really couldn't stop him. It was almost like, shout out to Kenneth Blackwell. I won't talk about Michigan State here, but I know he went off, had a huge game for them. But, you know, we couldn't stop Durant. So all respect to him. Grant Dubois, also another receiver. We got a really deep receiving core at Charlotte. Grant Dubois, 4 receptions, 118, 2 touchdowns. Great game for him. Charlotte, man, we get it done. We get the upset. Huge win. Huge win. Hopefully that, you know, kind of was a great introduction for all the new students and they can get acclimated in. The atmosphere can be like those games, every time. And Club Lit can stay lit, and Will Healy can continue to be one of the best young head coaches in America. Moving on now to the more of the national games. Ohio State took on Minnesota, and let me say this: Minnesota needs to be ranked. Minnesota I thought they should have been ranked. Personally speaking, I thought they should have been ranked. Nonetheless, Ohio State, Minnesota, Ohio State survived. They survived. They won the game, but they survived. They really, really survived. Chris Stroud, not Chris Stroud. CJ Stroud, first career start for Stroud. A lot of expectation. The quarterback from Cali, former 4-star prospect. A lot of expectation, coming after Justin Fields, and he didn't really live up to it. If we're being honest, didn't really live up to it. At least here in game 1, dealt with some struggles. Kind of got more comfortable as the game went on. I think that's just kind of how it goes. It also helps that he has the best receiving corps in America, led, of course, by a man who was really an NFL receiver playing with college kids, Chris Olave, who had, 4 receptions, 117, 2 touchdowns. Dude, he's the best. If he doesn't win the Biletnikoff, it's because Garrett Wilson won it, right? He's clearly the best receiver I'd say in America, just off of talent right now. Will he go first overall? I don't know. First overall off the bar for receivers, I don't know, but I would probably say Olave is probably the best receiver in America. Mo Ibrahim from Minnesota, and this is a big thing. If Ibrahim doesn't get hurt, he had 163 and 2 touchdowns through 3 quarters. Was looking like one of the best running backs in the country. If he doesn't get hurt, I think this game goes drastically different. I think maybe Minnesota possibly pulls off the upset here. Him going out with that Achilles. I don't know if we've got an official word on what exactly happened. It looked like an Achilles popped to me, and I guess to everybody else. But he stays in that game. I don't know if Ohio State survives. Also, shout out to Maya Williams for Ohio State really broke out in this game. But nonetheless, the Buckeyes move on. They get the win. Virginia Tech takes down UNC. And this is going to be a part of, I guess, a 3 shuffle of quarterbacks that had high expectations, were considered amongst, possible top picks that didn't show up. That just did not show up this week and did not have good games. And it started in this game, Virginia Tech versus UNC. Sam Howell goes 17 for 32, 208 yards. And while they weren't all like horrific picks, though one or two of them were, you could qualify, 3 interceptions. I think he had 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions. For a guy that was tabbed as almost like Baker Mayfield, or as, the guy that's the next number 1 overall pick, or in that conversation, or in Heisman conversation, this is a nightmare start for all of the hype that North Carolina had, for all of the hype that the ACC had. And we're going to talk about the ACC later, and especially once we get to Georgia Clemson, which headlined this week. But UNC, they just didn't have it. Didn't have it. Sam Howell didn't have it. Josh Downs had a pretty good game. Virginia Tech, well done. Defense showed up. Classic Virginia Tech. Lane Stadium was rocking. So, yeah, shout out to V-Tech. Oklahoma barely, and I mean barely, beats Tulane. Tulane, I got to give a shout out to the quarterback, Michael Pratt, freshman. 330, 4 touchdowns. 330 total yards, 4 touchdowns. He outplayed Spencer Rattler, the guy who was the Heisman favorite, a guy who many were like, ooh, is this the number 1 overall pick? Or is this a special type of quarterback? Completely outplayed him. Now, on paper, it looks like, Rattler had 300 yards passing. He went 30 for 39. But trust me, if you watch that game, Rattler did not have a good game. Those 2 picks really do tell a story, because it wasn't a good game. It wasn't a good game for Rattler. It really wasn't a good game. The Oklahoma defense reverted after a pretty solid first 2 quarters, completely reverted back to classic Oklahoma defense, which is no defense at all. And Tulane made a run. So shout out to Tulane, fought hard. Oklahoma survives, barely by the neck of their skin. But once again, like Ohio State, they look very, very human. Looked very, very human. It's going to be interesting to see what they do here in week 2, and if those adjustments are made. Do they regress back to a higher mean or a lower mean? Penn State, Wisconsin. Ranked matchup. Penn State goes into Wisconsin, gets the win, 16-10. Shout out to Sean Clifford. I will give a shout out to Jahan Dotson, one of the best receivers in America as well. 5 receptions, 102 yards, 1 touchdown. Chaz Malusi. seems like he made the right decision. When you can't really ever blame a running back for leaving their school, even if it's Clemson, to go to Wisconsin, because that's all Wisconsin does is breed offensive linemen and running backs. So he's in a great situation, but he was a rock star on Saturday, 121, 1 touchdown, impressive performance there. But Penn State defense gets it done, and that seems to be a recurring theme throughout this entire week. However, Alabama is still here. They're still here, and it looks like the offense is deadly as ever, as Bryce Russell Wilson, as I call him, young, dominated Miami, as expected. Nobody besides the people in the 305 really thought that the U was going to win this game, or had a chance. I think everybody in America expected a blowout. Everybody in America. And once again, the ACC gets trounced here. Bryce went 27 for 38, 344, 4 touchdowns. Not much more for me to say there. I mean, it's Alabama doing Alabama things to ranked opponents. They should be unanimous. They should be the unanimous number one, even over Georgia, who I'll get to once again. Spoiler alert. They should be the unanimous number one. They are clearly far away the number one team in the nation right now. But I digress. Texas took on Louisiana, or ranked Louisiana. Shout out to Louisiana for building that program up to this status. But Texas gets it done 38-18. Hudson Card, first career start for the Lake Travis native. He looked good. Card looked good. Hudson Card looked good. He looked good. You know, moving on from Seth Mellinger, those are big shoes to fill, especially in Texas, after Sam held it down for forever. But Card stepped right in there, did what he needed to do, got the ball to his playmakers, and you can't really ask for anything more because that'll just make him better. We saw Mac Jones do that straight to the top. You know, get it to your best players and work from there. And that is exactly what Card did. And it seems like Coach Sarkisian, shout out to Sark, is also, you know, his first game as Texas head coach. They look good. That offense was working. Bijan Robinson is probably the best running back in the nation. Or definitely up there in that conversation. 176 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Former running back Jordan Whittingham, now receiver, was dynamic. 7 receptions, 113, touchdown for him. Great opener for Texas. I know that's the hope for you Texas fans, right? And I'm not going to say it, but optimism. Deserved optimism. Of course, you got to see how the rest of the year goes, but the optimism is deserved. UGA and Clemson. The headliner, College Game Day, in Charlotte, in the 704. College Game Day was in Uptown. I could have walked to that after I took the light rod. But it was the headliner, and my goodness, we saw it was a top 5 matchup. You know, we rarely see those week 1. You know, 2 heavyweights, Georgia, Clemson, and it lived up to it defensively. This was one of the greatest games you'll ever see defensively. Let's not ever talk about these offenses again. This was both offenses, not just Clemson and DJ getting sacked 7 times. Along with him just not having his best game. The Clemson offensive line, by the way, they need Zach Rice. I would look at that game and I would say, yo, they need me. I might start year 1. They need me. They need me. If I'm an offensive line recruit, I would look at that game and say, yeah, I need to go to Clemson. If I like Clemson, I need to go to Clemson because I'm going to start year 1. Because Clemson's offensive line is garbage. Not the Georgia's defense, which is one of the best defense. It might be the best defense in the nation. Honestly, it might be the best defense in the nation. Alright? Don't get it wrong. All those recruits I started seeing some familiar names, and then they started showing out. Shout out to Jordan, shout out to Nakobe, shout out to Keely Ringo. I saw him. They're stacked. Nolan, Smith, Adam, they're stacked. Absolutely stacked. That recruiting class from like 2 years ago, well, actually my recruiting class, yeah, where they got a bunch of great defensive recruits and starting to pop up, and it's not looking good. But yeah, Georgia put on an all-time defensive performance, and honestly, Clemson did too. Brian Bresee, and this was without Tyler Davis. Him and Bresee up front is going to be disgusting. Miles Murphy, Bannon Spector, I love him as a linebacker. Of course, they still got Scal. Secondary, we'll still see. We'll see. But Andrew Booth is definitely one of the best corners in the nation. Simply put, it was an all-time defensive performance from both of these 2 teams. The only touchdown of the game was on a pick 6 for Georgia. If DJ doesn't, completely telegraph that throw, then this game is going to overtime 3-3. And this could be a different ballgame. That's how close this game was. That's how defensive. This is just a pure defensive battle. A pure defensive battle. But nonetheless, congrats to Georgia. They get the win. They move on. And just kind of like me to kind of wrap up really quickly, Notre Dame and Florida State played a classic in week 1. I know I said we had one of the games of the year, but so did they. Mackenzie Milton, why didn't he start? Also, Kyle Hamilton made a bid for best player in the nation. He really did make a bid for best player in the nation. I feel like he's been one of the best safeties in the country for my whole existence. I know he's only a junior, but that's how much of an impact he's had since his freshman year. He's just been one of the best safeties, and now he's one of the best players in the country, clearly. 6'4", 220. NFL teams are going to be salivating over him. And like I said, bunches of upsets this week. Namely, Montana beat a ranked Washington team. Yes, that's an FCS team beating a ranked team. That's all I got to say about that. UCLA smokes LSU. DTR, well done. Zach Charbonnet is making a world of difference in LA, which as a USC fan, even though we got the dub, shout out to Drake London, has me a little worried. Bouette, not bad. He was very good. Great receiver. I think the guy is going to emerge higher and higher on people's boards as the season goes on. And of course, Eastern Tennessee State beat Vanderbilt. UConn lost to Holy Cross. It was a wild week 1, but I wouldn't have it any other way. College football is back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all rejoice. Let's all be happy. It's back. All right, in combat sports, which is really just MMA this week. We had nothing in boxing. We had a UFC Fight Night. It was a pretty good card, I gotta say. It was a pretty good card. Had some names, and which is why we're talking about it and giving it its own topic. Of course, it was headlined by Derek Brunson versus Darren Till in a big time contendership matchup in the middleweight division. And Derek Brunson has made it known that he is no longer trying to be a gatekeeper. Brunson is fed up with the gatekeeper life, and he wants his title shot, and he earned it. He subbed Darren Till, who is now 1-4, I believe, in his last 5 fights. 1-4. Till's got to figure something out. He's a funny guy. He's got a great character, right? He's a great character for the sport. But he's 1-4 in their last 5. You're pummeling down the rankings. You got to figure something out. Your ground game looked like nil, and that's what Brunson does best. And yeah, he just subbed Till in round 3, got it done. He has earned that title shot to get the winner of Rob versus Izzy 2. He specifically called out Izzy, but he did acknowledge that, hey, Rob and Izzy got to do their thing. I can wait, but I need that next shot, and I think he will get it, and I think he does deserve it. Should be interesting to see what happens there. I don't know if he beats either Rob or Izzy, but well deserved. It's always nice to see somebody rise to the top after everything Brunson's gone through in his career, to see him rise up and, earn that title shot. A lot of respect. The UFC has thrown, guys they thought, were supposed to be to get the next shot, right? Supposed to be that next shot. They've done that time after time at Brunson, and he's beaten him. So deserved it, well earned. Tom Aspinall looking like a top-level heavyweight prospect. He KO'd Spivak in round 1. Somebody called him Frank Mir's illegitimate son, and yeah, Aspinall, despite his similar looks to former UFC heavyweight champion Frank Mir, he's his own fighter and starting to make his own name. Aspinall continues to rise. Khalil Roundtree, oblique kicks can be completely deadly, especially when you got as good of Muay Thai as Khalil Roundtree Jr. as Bukakis' career might be on. He might have ended his career. Oblique kicks, if they're not checked and if they're landed correctly, can be absolutely devastating. I did not watch that replay. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I didn't want to watch that replay. Good gracious. Praise up for him. Good win for Khalil. Paddy Pimblett. A lot of Paddy the Baddy. A lot of hype around him. UFC's been promoting the crap out of him the past couple months since he signed, and kind of hyping his matchup here. And he took on Venjarama and got the KO in round 1. Now, he doesn't do much defensively, but my goodness, dude's got a chin and he can throw hands. He will get in a brawl, and he's a character. He's a character. He's got the gimmick down. You know, we'll see. We'll see though. Great fight here. Exciting fight. Not the cleanest fight, but an exciting fight. He seems to be an exciting fighter. He's got the personality. But we're going to find out if he has the goods. Of course, he's got to move up in competition, got to work on that defense. But exciting debut for Paddy the Baddy. Exciting debut. Alright, now to head over to entertainment, which is actually what I believe is my last major topic of the day. Last major topic, like I said, I should have said in the beginning, we had a few major topics, but we had a lot to talk about then. And once again, we have a lot to talk about here when it comes to TV and music and movies, which we have all of them covered. We have a full entertainment segment. So for those looking for the entertainment segment, clap your hands, ladies and gentlemen, because we're here. And we're going to start off, we'll start off with movies. I went to go see Shang-Chi like everybody else, it seems like, in America or just across the world yesterday. Legend of the Ten Rings, and my goodness, I love the way they incorporated the Ten Rings. Let me start off with that, and of course, spoiler alert, for those that haven't seen it, feel free to skip ahead here, as I will be talking about the actual contents of the movie. Now, nonetheless, I love the way they incorporated the Ten Rings. I love the way, it's such a, an interesting weapon, that it could have been kind of, it could have been meh, could have been mid, but the way they incorporated the rings and the way they were, used differently by Wenwu or by Shang, it was so cool to watch. And yeah, honestly, this was a great movie. This was a great movie, a great origin story. It was different. It had its own distinct flavor to it, and I can respect that. And I can enjoy that. It was different. Probably had the best fight choreography. You could argue the best fight choreography in the MCU. It was terrific. Once again, everybody's talking about that bus scene, and well-deserved, as they should. That was beautiful. Wenwu versus his wife, / Shang's mother, when they first met, that was beautiful dance choreography. Oh man, the fighting was just it was so good. Tony Nguyen. If you're not familiar, he got to be one of the greatest actors of all time. At least one of the greatest Asian actors of all time. He absolutely killed it as the Mandarin, or we'll just call him Wenwu, because he didn't really go by the Mandarin. He did a whole little speech. The Trevor Blattery Mandarin showed up and had a nice little piece in this movie. Shout out to Ben Kingsley. But yeah, Tony Nguyen, he's one of the best ever. He acted on another level with Wenwu and really made him a very, very compelling villain and a very, very complex character, which is something you gotta love. You gotta love a complex villain, a complex character, and Wenwu was just that. His sister, Qiling, she was very interesting as well. Very interested to see what she does in the future. She started her own fight club. She took over the Ten Rings at the end there. Tao Lo, I'm very interested to see more exploration of that. That looked almost like a Pokemon, Skull Island type world. It was so cool. Yeah, cinematography. It was a great movie. Straight up, it was a great movie. Shout out to Awkwafina, shout out to Simi. They both killed it in roles as Katie and of course as Shang. It was a good movie. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I recommend it. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart? What if he lost Christine? This was an absolute heart-wrenching episode of What If, as Stephen Strange just completely, again, one reoccurring element he always has to battle is his ego and his will to want to fix everything. And that's what this episode was all about. Contrary to him losing his hands, in this universe, Christine always dies, and that's what helps make Strange Doctor Strange. And he did everything. It got ugly. He went down the deep end because kept trying to figure out ways to save her. But of course, that ends up splitting himself. And then you have the Strange that is good and understands that he can't go back. And you have the Strange that's gone down the deep dark path, taking all these souls, trying to accumulate all this power to reverse time, to create a paradox. And it doesn't work. Ultimately, the Watcher just watches him. Could have helped him a couple times. Strange even breaks through that wall and is able to see the Watcher as he's about to, kind of get entrapped in this pocket universe for the rest of the time without Christine, who dies anyway. It was such a tough episode. It was a tough episode, man. Though I gotta give a shout out to Benedict Cumberbatch because he voice acted. That was incredible voice acting. But yeah, heart-wrenching episode for Doctor Strange fans. Titans episode 6. We had a lot of Babs and Dick. It was a lot of Babs and Dick. We really got to see the exploration of their characters a little bit. It wasn't a bad episode, and it was nice to see interactions between Babs and Dick, and even Corey and Dick in this episode. But it's a little weird. It's a little weird that how they were going about it. Babs kind of starts as like this Catwoman-esque, kind of Catwoman-like, which they even talk about in the episode, and her and Dick are like stealing stuff, which I feel like is a little bit out of character. Also, they feel like a little bit because they went to go get a drink after meeting up the first time, which is like, I feel like the timeline and the ages are so like all over the place in the show. And that's one of my complaints. You can't really get like a harness. Like, Dick was not Robin at 22 years old, right? But in this universe, it seems like he was for a lot longer. And with how old Bats is, because we finally got some Timothy Drake at the end, it's going to be interesting to see how Drake is incorporated as Robin, and if he's going to have anything with Bruce. It's going to be an interesting situation there. But honestly, it was a solid episode. We saw Lady Vic show up here, and like I said, Timmy Drake showed up at the end. Red Hood kind of starting to rebel against Crane, so we'll see what happens in episode 7. Music. CLB, Certified Lover Boy. I also listen to Donda, but this is not me trying to compare the two. But CLB dropped. This was a big one, man. It was a big one. Drake is about to drop. The game was in disarray. And yeah, it's here. Finally. Still not over the cover art, but we finally got it. And for me, it delivered. It was a great album. What rating am I going to give this? I'll give it a 9. I've kind of battled below a high 8 and a 9. But I'll give it a 9. I'll give it a 9 because I feel like it's going to grow into me to where it is a 9. I was thinking about it was like an 8.7. I'll give it a 9. We're going to give it a 9. Certified Lover Boy, it was a good album. It was. Like, I'm going to go through the track list here. Champagne Poetry, he gave us everything, by the way. He gave you bars. He gave you the more serious tracks. He gave you some dance hall, right? Shout out to Thames. He gave you the melodic tracks, the sad boy simp tracks. He gave you the toxic tracks, which I mostly appreciated, the toxicity of this entire album. I love that. Now, a lot of people wanted to go on and criticize it, and they were like, and once again, if you didn't like the album, there's nothing wrong with it. Same thing with Donda. If you didn't like the album, that's okay. Everybody has different music tastes. Everybody likes what they like. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to bash the album, but like I said, nothing wrong with that. But one of the main criticisms was he didn't talk about anything. He talks about the same stuff, which I don't understand. I really don't understand. People saying, oh, he makes the same song, every time. So what is it? Is he a culture vulture or is he repetitive? Which one is it? You got to make up a choice here. Because right now it's looking like both of those are invalid because they're, contrasting each other. He can't be somebody that switches it up too much and somebody that keeps it, to this formulaic, material every time. He can't be the same. That can't work mutually. That doesn't work mathematically. So nonetheless, I appreciate the versatility of the album. My favorite songs, Fair Trade, of course, I've been waiting for that one. TSU, of course, which is not around. Pipe Down, Into Deep, I've been playing a lot. No Friends in the Industry and Knife Talk make me want to do unreasonable stuff. Race My Mind was fire. Let's see, The Remorse, Get Along Better. I wanted to send somebody in particular Get Along Better. But nonetheless, it was a great album. Features killed it, Jay, Baby. It was a good album. I know I've said that about 20 times in the past 3 minutes, but I really did enjoy the album. The Boy came through. I needed this album. I've been waiting on this one because I feel like I needed it. And I'm going to play the crap out of it. It broke a bunch of records already, but I mean, y'all know how this goes. It's going to be a massacre on Billboard next week. So hopefully you didn't drop this week. Just a fair warning. Shout out to Corpse and who else? Shmurda dropped. So again, it's a rough week for y'all two to drop. But yeah, good luck to you. Now let's talk about Donda, because I didn't talk about it last, so I talked about it briefly. But I finally got around to listening to it, and honestly, it was a solid album. It was a solid album. I'm not going to give it a rating. I'm not going to give Donda a rating, not because I think it's something that's above a rating. If I had to give a rating, it was probably like a 7, maybe close to an 8, but somewhere in that 7 range. So it's an above average, album. But it's not something there were certain highs, right? Like, Off the Grid was fantastic. 5 Years, the complete change in the quality of that song after 5 Years verse was night and day. That was probably the best verse of his life, and then Kanye came back with a great verse as well. I also think I liked Okay Okay. Hurricane was straight, but honestly, I didn't get the hype for it. It was good, but like greatest song of all time hype, I wasn't really feeling that. But yeah, Donda, it was good. Like I said, it was enjoyable. It had its high moments. I think John said this was an album of highs, of moments, right? Which I guess is for life, which is kind of what the album is about. It kind of works because there's high moments in your life and then there's down moments. And there were certainly down moments in this album, like moments where it was like I just straight up skipped. I didn't play the full thing through because I was like, this is garbage. Why is this on the album? And it wasn't like it was an interlude or it had a purpose like it was a skit. It was just like, why is this here? This is just to help boost this to 27 songs. So there was filler. There was quite a bit of filler, but there was also some great, songs, some great production, some great music on this album. So it's not trash, Just like, and I guess if I have to compare CLB because these two albums are now forever connected, neither one of them are trash. In my opinion, neither one of them were trash. Neither one of them I would really even call mid. I think I personally preferred, because I think I relate and Drake is my guy, I personally liked the material on Certified Lover Boy more than like Donda. But if you're a Ye fan, I can see why you enjoyed Donda more than CLB, if I had to compare the two. But honestly, I'm just happy two of the greatest of all time making good music, still producing at a high level, and I appreciate it. And like I said here, and I've said on the reaction videos, we don't fan war, we fan more, and we just appreciate music. We appreciate art for what it is, in whatever form it comes. If it's quality stuff, we appreciate it. Both CLB and Donda were quality stuff. There's no real argument. There's no real, you have to be like, oh, that one's trash, this one's better. You don't have to do that. It's really unnecessary. If you don't like it, don't listen. You don't like them, don't listen. Don't listen. You don't have to listen. You really don't. You don't have to. If you don't like an artist, you don't have to listen. CLB, I preferred. It was a great album. But Donda, also quality stuff. Rest in peace to Kanye's mother, of course. But that was the entertainment bit. Okay, and with all of the major topics covered for this episode, we have reached the roundup. And we got a nice sized roundup for you. Patrick Cantlay is the hottest, is the hottest golfer in terms of, form. He's in form. Shout out to my soccer and football watchers. Cantlay is in form. He is in form. He wins the Tour Championship and wins the FedEx Cup over John Rahm. He's been on fire lately. Shout out to Cantlay. He's got to be rising. Getting pretty close to Rahm's #1 golfer spot. But yeah, $15 million in the bank. You got to love it. You got to love it. Shout out to Patrick Cantlay. He's on fire. Going back to college football briefly, Hefley of Presbyterian College, shout out to North Carolina, threw for 10 touchdowns, an FCS record. 10 touchdowns. It's an FCS or it's a D2 record. One of the two. But yeah, 10 passing touchdowns in a game. That's insane. What a start to the season. Shohei Ohtani continues to be magical. Had a great start. Then hit a a no-doubter for number 43. He continues to obviously lead the MVP race, but his home run race might be in jeopardy. It might be in jeopardy because Salvador Perez cannot stop hitting home runs. He's got the most home runs for a catcher since like 2013 or something like that. 41 now for Salvi. Dude he's on fire right now. Probably the best catcher you could say in the world. And I wouldn't have any complaints. Perez is on fire right now. Also, a quick tidbit. The AL East, fourth best team, which is the Toronto Blue Jays currently, has a better record than the NL East's best team, the Atlanta Braves. That should tell you what type of stress us, Red Sox, Yankee, Blue Jay, Rays fans are currently under. That's all. That's all I want to say. U.S. Open, which is going on right now in tennis. Leylah Fernandez in the women's side and Carlos Alcaraz in the men's side. Two 18-year-olds getting it done right now and making improbable runs through the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open. So yeah, that's interesting to watch. A big shout out there. Denny Hamlin won Darlington, first playoff race of the season in NASCAR. Denny Hamlin gets it done, gets the big win there. Of course, that means he advances. Chase Elliott wrecked. It's going to be hard for the defending champ to get back into it, but I wouldn't count him out. We'll see if NASCAR's Golden Boy can get back in contention here, but it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be tough for him to get back, but without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we've covered everything here in episode 57. Hope you guys enjoyed fantasy football. Once again, the NFL season starts next week, so yeah, football will really well and truly be back then, and these episodes will continue to, even though this ended up not being too long, so not too bad, probably about 40 minutes, I believe, if my calculations are right. So, hope you guys enjoyed. NFL back next week. Episode 57 in the bag. Ocho, signing off.